We think that heat stress or heat stroke can happen at these really, really high temperatures. Truthfully, some of the most dangerous times for heat stress is between spring to summer weather, where these dogs are so acclimated to the cold. It's like one day is super cold and the next day is 70. You might go from 30, 40, 50 degrees, and then all of a sudden it's Ohio and you're like, hey, it's now 80 degrees outside. And we didn't have any grace period to let ourselves acclimate, right?
Hey everybody, welcome to Off the Leash Conversations with Professional Canine. I'm Tom.
I'm Sam.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're going to see what we get into today. It's a hot day here in Ohio, so I'll let the gang take over.
I mean, Tommy, you told everyone to stay inside, and here you are outside.
Well, it's for the dog, but in all reality, Yara is sitting right beside me. Like, she's Corso mode, looking to the field, waiting for the deer to attack, apparently. So she's in defender mode right beside me. So
that's Max earlier today with watching the rabbits. We have killer rabbits.
Killer rabbits. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was worried about they were going to attack the house in hordes. So it is a hot day in Ohio. And really across the Midwest has been brutal, right? Everybody's into these heat alerts, heat advisory, extreme heat alert. I think we were like 98 degrees in Central Ohio and 106 on the heat index. And honestly, I get a lot of questions about what can I do with my dog? Can we go outside? How long should they be outside? And that's always a challenging question, right? Because my two dogs, they don't care it's hot. They want to go outside, but it's like, no, you've been out 10 minutes. You need to be back in the house, hydrate. And Jess, you're the resident expert on this. What are your thoughts on this extreme heat stuff for canine?
So, I think there's so much information on the internet. I was looking through like all the veterinary pages, everyone's posting information about it's too hot. And so I think the message is out there to pet owners, but I think sometimes what gets lost in translation is like, what does it really mean? What does it really mean? Like, we still have dogs. We still have dogs that need to work. We still have dogs that need to fulfill their needs. We've talked about that so much over the last couple of weeks. And so what's the real reality? Like, what do we do when it's hot like this? And so, I think kind of having an idea of when can I go outside and what can I do inside is really important. So, and I know both of you do a bunch of stuff with dogs in and out all day. We have a plan, and my dogs love hot days because that means that they get extra things that they maybe don't get on a regular basis. I reserve certain treats and certain enrichment ideas for days just like this. So for my dogs, this is exciting for them, and they get a lot of stimulus out of hot days like this. So I don't know. What do you guys do?
Well, I mean, you mentioned earlier about me canceling lessons, and I did. I think all my lessons this week have canceled, and it's just one of those situations where it's like some of my clients, and I'm not, and if they are watching, I don't mean this disrespectfully, but there are some elderly clients that are, obviously that takes a toll on them. And then you take your dog out into this heat, and it's for an hour lesson. Like, what enrichment are we really getting out of the dog for that period of time? And kind of for me, it's like, what can we get further with the dog when it's really truly just looking at me like, can I just get some water? Can I just go inside? Can I just get cool down? It's just too crazy out here. But in the same sense, and it just, as I just said that, right, our working dogs, like, obviously I'm a police canine handler. These dogs are going to be called out in exactly these type of climates, right? So, we have to understand that our dogs, as whether they're, like, if we're a working dog, like, these are going to be the climates that you're going to be least expected into. And there was a time, I believe it wasn't last year, I think it was 2 years ago, we got called out in similar weather, and we had to do a track for pursuit for OSP that lasted 2+ hours in our local state park. and it involved aviation. It involved a lot of different tactics as far as law enforcement. People were arrested in that situation, but my dog specifically, he powered through it. It showed me that, you know, that particular dog, you know, my working dog was able to take that heat and understand his job that was asked of him, and he performed it. But you know, retrospect, when we bring back to our pet dogs or even our therapy service dogs, you know, we have to be aware that they're not necessarily geared for that type of workability, if you will. Sam, what's your
100%.
thoughts? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, you hit on a couple really great points. Is working dogs have to work. You know, bad guys are bad guys. It is what it is. And we talk about extreme conditions, and it goes both ways. How many times you've been out on a long track or a traffic stop for narcotics or something, and it's the middle of winter, it's sub-zero out, winds blowing, and you have to work in that environment. Well, the heat's the same thing. And part of that is we train with the working dogs in heat. They're a little bit more acclimated to it, and then you can tell when you get off of a running odor, or you do a track, when you go over to the cruiser and they're standing by the door, like, open up the damn door, it's hot, I need to get in the air conditioning, right? But we have ways to mitigate that. Where our pet owners, you know, they don't have that same ability to mitigate some of the stuff. If they're just out walking around with their dog, they're not thinking about what's happening to the paw pad. How hot is that asphalt or concrete? Our service dogs, and I'm a big believer in this because, you know, a Max is train them to wear booties. Because it's not like you're going to leave your service dog at home just because it's a really hot day. So having them have the ability to put on rec specs or goggles and a pair of booties and just go about their day is huge. I'm less concerned about them being out in the heat than I am about what the UV is doing to their eyes, especially if you have dogs with those lighter color eyes, or what's happening to their paw pads, right? We can mitigate the exposure to the actual heat walking in and out of stores. But it only takes a couple minutes on 106-degree asphalt to burn those pads. Right, Jess?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And something that's a huge misconception is we think that heat stress or heat stroke can happen at these really, really high temperatures. But truthfully, some of the most dangerous times for heat stress is when we kind of that brink between spring to summer weather too, where these dogs are so acclimated to the cold, especially in Ohio, because we do get so cold. And then all of a sudden it's like one day is super cold and the next day is 70. You know, you might go from 30, 40, 50 degrees, and then all of a sudden it's Ohio and you're like, hey, it's now 80 degrees outside, and we didn't have any grace period to let ourselves acclimate, right? And so that's really truly where some of the heat stress and heat stroke comes from, is some of these dogs are not acclimated to the heat and we're expecting them to perform. And they, you know, my dogs particularly are little air conditioned babies, right? They are acclimated to live a home life. They are in the home, they're in air conditioning. Their body is not used to being out in these kind of conditions. And so some of our working dogs, especially like Tommy, like you and Nico and them, it's normal for him. He is acclimated to this heat. He's had that the slow, gradual introduction to that and exposure to that. And so for him, his ability to work through some of that is much greater than maybe somebody's pet dog that they're a homebody, they're used to the AC, and, you know, going out in this for extended periods of time is a huge problem. I mean, at this temperature, this heat index, any dog, it can be a major problem. But a lot of times we kind of forget that it's not always that it's just this high temperature. It's that lack of acclimation too. In recent years, we have new information about heat stress. You know, a lot of times we were so focused on the signs of heat stroke and like the major clinical symptoms surrounding that we forgot what the lead up looks like. What does a dog that is getting too hot look like?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I currently have, and you may hear them periodically barking, but I have 10 dogs in my kennel right now, and 9 of them or I'm sorry, 6 of them are boarders, and you know, and when you're dealing with client dogs and they come into this environment and they're looking at you like, I have fans. I try to keep everything as cool as I can. I keep water constantly to them. They're on video, so I can monitor what's going on with them. But, in it, sometimes people don't understand what that emergency looks like when these dogs have overheated to such an extent. We seen it, you and I seen it once, a couple times in training with another company we worked for, where the dogs have literally flattened out, and you sitting there and you kind of, I seen handlers, and I can't sit there and say that seeing my dog go into this heat stroke, I would not be panicked. Obviously, with your expertise that you've given me over the years, I know how to handle it, right? But some of these handlers and even these pet dog owners, when they see signs of heat strokes and they see these dogs looking at them like, I'm in trouble, they don't know what to do. And I really, I think that is something very important as pet dog owners. They have to understand what these symptoms looks like and what they need to do to correct it.
Yeah.
You really hit it. You hit a great spot. We do a lot of first aid classes, trauma courses and stuff for our working dogs, our police department handlers, the numerous fire departments we've worked with, give them that knowledge. But it would be great to be able to get the pet world together and have pet owners come and do one of these first aid courses and understand what these different symptoms look like and how to mitigate them. And it's just not out there. There's just not a lot of ability to get them the information. Because even when we offer it, it's really hard to get people to come in and say, yeah, I'm willing to give you my time to learn this. And you can't teach it for one or two people, right? So, that's something to really, I think every trainer, not only our company, but every trainer should really be stressing to their clients and their owners. You need to go get some first aid knowledge. You do it for your children. Let's do it for your pet. I think that's incredibly vital. And Jess, you were talking about the acclimation period, right? And it's just like humans. When I come out of the spring or winter running, that first 70-degree day as a runner is the worst day of your life.
Yes, but by the end of summer, when it's weather like this, 70 feels fine. You're like, I can go run in a 70-degree day. That's nothing, right? But when you come out of that, you're not acclimated to it. Your body's not used to that. And so you get a 100-degree day like this, and I'm begging for a 75-degree sunny day to go run, So, and that is part of it. And it can take weeks. It can take, to really fully acclimate. And it's a slow process. I think the biggest thing that people should understand is like, what are we really looking for? And Tom, both of you in training can attest to this. We've seen it firsthand. I have stopped training and I have stopped people and been like, that's enough. We're done. And they'll be like, what do you mean? My dog's fine. Like, we play ball for 2 hours. And you're like, not today. Liquid Death, if you're listening, we're still waiting on that sponsorship and we're still waiting on those director chairs. Beat you to it. Some of the things that we're looking for is it can be as subtle as any behavior change in the dog. So if you're outside, and again, it doesn't really matter. We talk about, it could be a 70-degree day, it could be a 100-degree day. But, let's say you're out playing ball and you notice that your dog is being a little weird. You're like, all of a sudden we were chasing the ball and everything was good and you were retrieving and like whatever. And then all of a sudden they start acting weird. People tell me that all the time. My dog's acting weird. I'm like, yeah, they're too hot. And it can be subtle and it can be dog to dog. And you have to kind of understand who your dog is and what some of their nuances are. So a dog like Nico, for example, if all of a sudden he starts outing his toy and he's spitting it on his own, hello, that is a major, major red flag. That dog is too hot. Put him away. Cool him down. And people think I'm crazy when I say that. Like, your training didn't work. And, we might be doing a training session and people will be like, hey, look at that. My dog's downing. Look at him. He's laying down. And you're like, no, my training didn't work in the first 5 minutes that we've been out here. Your dog is too hot. We've done too much. And so it's sometimes these little subtle behavior changes that we're seeing. The dog who plays keep away, you're throwing the ball and normally they bring it right back to you. And now all of a sudden they're like making the big kind of loop around the tree. They're kind of dodgy with it and they look like they're playing and they look like they're just playing a little game of keep away. But if that's not their normal personality on a normal day, your dog's too hot. And those are subtle cues because these dogs sometimes have no self-preservation. And so they will go until the wheels fall off. And that is their way of kind of like, if I jog back a little bit slower, so, you know, the dog that you are doing something and they're like on 100 and now all of a sudden they're at like 80, they're not just getting worn out. That's a subtle behavior change that they're too hot and they're trying to mitigate you, whether you're playing ball, you're playing frisbee, you're romping and you're playing and you're doing whatever. A lot of common one is ball. Everybody wants to play ball with their dog or tug. You know, we're taking bite sleeves, we're doing this. If we're on a dog's on a bite sleeve, imagine that all of a sudden that dog's out is perfect. Guess what? It wasn't. You didn't do the training. It doesn't work that quick. You know, that dog is too hot, and you can see it. A lot of them will have that big mouth pant. And again, in working dogs, a lot of them look like that, but you can tell the difference. And Tommy, you can tell the difference between when Nico is panting because he was doing bite work and that's his way of expending his energy and like cooling down and all of that versus like, I'm getting too hot. I am stressed. There's a huge difference.
I've seen this a couple different times when Sam and I have done training. I could tell when my dog is, you know, he's getting to the point to where I need to give him a longer break than normal. You know, you can tell that, you know, as you said, like, I know my dog and handlers across the entire nation know their dogs better than anybody else, right? And they know that whether you are experiencing normal behavior or abnormal behavior, and sometimes, though, they refuse to see it, and I think that's the danger, right? When you're dealing with the working dog, is they want to continue because whether there's other dogs and handlers in the training group, and they want to show that my dog is just as good as yours, and there's kind of this little ego or competition to do better than everybody else. I get it, I understand it, I've been there, but they really have to pay attention to what's the best for the dog at the time. You know, if your dog, and I remember specifically this time when we were training, and again, it was with another company, we had a dog and he was severely dehydrated. He was falling out. He literally collapsed, the tongue hanging out, and you grabbed that dog, Jess, and you started putting him into the pool. We carried, that's one thing that we did do at the time. We had baby pools with water and ice and whatnot in there, and we began to cool that dog's core body temperature down, and it became so important. And if I would just honestly say at that point in time, we saved that dog's life, whether anybody wanted to admit it or not, because I think if we were going any further in the training exercise, that dog would have been taken to like a med vet or some veterinarian hospital to seek further attention.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things is really important, and this is from a decoy and trainer standpoint, is if you're the trainer or you're the decoy, you're responsible for that dog just as much as their handler. And you really need to be watching on these hot days what's happening. And Tom, you know, I've done the same thing where you and I have been training. We've been training with other dogs. And it's like, hey, we need to give everybody a break. It's too hot. The dogs are gassed. From a decoy standpoint, or even just as a trainer when we're doing track, you can see when that dog's starting to get gassed. And if the trainers and the decoys don't step up and call it out, the handlers a lot of times will just push through. Because, you know, everybody wants to be Billy Badass. And nobody wants to be the first one to say, hey, I need a break.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is decoys, we'll look at it from a decoying standpoint is, hey, I've been in this soup for 20 minutes and taken 30 bites. I need a break. I got to get a gallon of water in me, you know, especially on these kind of days. It is a great way of breaking that training cycle. Give the handlers an out.
I mean, to be honest, from an outside perspective, I think days like this are an amazing opportunity because I think some of our training, when you talk about working dogs, is so focused on bite work and apprehension and the fun stuff, right? And I think that days like this are an amazing opportunity to kind of fine tune some of the basics or do detail work that we don't often get to do because life is fast and crazy and you're always adapting to do big scenarios and do all these things. And sometimes I think that we lose the little fine, minute details. And so using these opportunities as a trainer speaks a lot about who you are and, you know, kind of about you. If you can say, hey, you know what? Today's not today. We're not gonna risk it. We're not even gonna do that. We're actually going to fine tune the details. We're going to work inside if you can, or whatever that looks like, and do things that, you know, like a little cleanup work, if you will, that we don't often get to do because, you know, it's hard to get to those things. And so sometimes these days are much needed break for trainers, a much needed break for the dogs to kind of step back and do easy things that we forget about, truly. And for pet owners, the same thing. Like, I think that people get so caught up in that they have to take their dog on that mile walk every day or whatever that looks like, that we forget that it's okay for them to not get that. And it's okay for them not to get the walk or, you know, have the ball session. You know, there are things that we can do inside the house that are actually far more stimulating and productive than going outside and doing our outdoor activities.
Yeah, and you're right on with that, Jess, with especially our pet owners, because I've had two people actually ask me this today, was, well, normally I do an hour walk. What can I do to stimulate my dog? And, you know, wear them out because you got so much energy. It's like, you know what? Let's play some different games.
Yeah.
How about you take a Kong, fill it with some treats, and hide it somewhere? Let them go find it. You want to wear your dog out? Let them use their nose for a while, right?
You know, my favorite thing to do with young families, this is something fun I love to teach. So, you know, we've talked about it a few times, and I think we'll probably end up having to do a whole episode on it. But good work, Yara.
Hi, Yara.
Is hide and go seek with the littles. So, you know, the kids are off school. We're all home. Summer's been crazy. It's super hot out. People are trying to stay indoors. Getting everybody involved and like let the kids go hide. And mom or dad or the other sibling or whoever kind of holds on to the dog, gets them super excited. The kid goes off and hides somewhere. And then we send the dog to go find him, you know? And so many pet dogs, people think like that's a working dog thing. It's not. So many pet dogs love to play hide and seek, especially because most families, the kids are the dog's favorite anyway. And if they can take some treats with them or their little toy or whatever, it is so fun. The kids get exercise. The kids are stimulated. They are engaging with the dog, which is so fun. We talk about that so much, having that dynamic and like the respect between the dog and the kids. And it gives everybody something to do. And it's honestly like tires everybody out. Everyone's going to take a nap after that.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and today it's funny. Today when I was getting off work, Nico comes. Usually the ritual is I let him out of the car. He comes into work or in the house. I'm sorry, and I ungear. You know, I take my gear off. I taking his gear off, and he's kind of being a dog and stuff. And so I was in the bedroom, and my Corso Yara is out playing with Nico, and so I hid in the bathroom or in the bedroom. And I could hear the Corso coming, and I heard Nico coming down the hallway, and they're sniffing around and stuff. Nico goes running outside. Guess who comes find Dad? The Corso. No, because he's been with me all damn day, and so the Corso's like, I haven't seen you. Like, let's go play. Let's go do something. So yeah, it can be kind of a fun outlet for the dogs.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's so fun, and you can do it like, okay, so you don't have kids. Like, I love to hide from the dogs, and Adam will like, they'll be outside for a minute going potty, and then like I'll run and hide somewhere, and he lets them in, and they all want to come find me, you know. And treats too. Like, people can hide like treats, their Kong, a lick mat, like letting them use their nose. Like, people think that nose work or scent work has to be this fancy odor detection, and it's not really that at all. It's just letting them use their nose and letting them kind of sniff around. And so there's so many, I mean, gosh, the internet and chat GPT and all the things is just full of all the ideas. And it's easy and it's fun and it's entertaining. And I think sometimes as pet owners, even when it's not hot like this, we forget to play with our dog. A lot of times we want them to like go self-do something, but like that misses the whole point. And so, you know, our way of playing with them is to like, well, we went on a walk together, or we went and played ball together, or we went and did whatever. And those things are good and great, and we believe in that. But there is a different dynamic when you're cooped up inside. And this goes for crazy winter snowy days that you can't be out because it's too cold too. But there's just a total dynamic change and a changing in respect and engagement from your dog when you play with them. You do the activity with them. And we miss that. You know, a lot of times we miss the mark on that as pet owners often, myself included.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that we overlook a lot of times, and I try to work on clients doing homework and stuff, and the homework is great. You know, we have an end goal we're trying to achieve, but it's really taking anything that we're doing in training and turning it into a game.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're working on loose leash walking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Today, when you're indoors, is a perfect time to work. Put the leash on, walk in confined spaces. It forces the dog to be more tight to your body, more focused on what's going on, and get them used to turning around in circles in these tight spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you work, you know, some fun games of teaching the dog to center,
Mm-hmm.
and luring them with their toy or with their ball, or
Mm-hmm.
you know, you throw the ball in the basement and have them bring it back to the center.
Yeah.
You know, those are all fun things that we can do with the dog, that we can do inside, and it reinforces the homework that we're trying to achieve.
Absolutely.
And I think it gets overlooked.
Yeah, you mentioned some points there, Sam, that, you know, you talked about, you know, doing things specifically with the dog, and you know, last week you guys were on the podcast with Tiffany, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, you guys were talking about breed specifics and getting that particular dog because of, you know, it's a working line dog. Maybe they have a cattle dog, maybe they have a doodle, like you have a working line genetics inside that dog. And so when you have these days like that, and like the heat is just too much, and the dogs are arguing, and it's too much for them, and you have to do something indoors with them, you have to fulfill that commitment to them, because they will crave it. And if they don't find something to fulfill their needs, they will find something to do it, whether that means tearing up something or doing something mischievous. Speaking of, my dogs apparently are upset, so I'm going to mute my mic and let you guys carry on.
That is
I love it.
hysterical.
You know, my
No,
favorite thing. My favorite thing is the lick mat. They're so underestimated, but have you seen the lick bowls? They have like all sorts of really
Yes.
cool the technology behind them. Originally they were just like little squares and they had little pricklies on them, but now people have run with the idea and they have like a gajillion options. And I saw someone who was like, they collect all sorts of different like shapes and sizes and depths and all this stuff. But honestly, when we talk about how we train in our belief system, you know, people have probably seen it on our website. You know, we talk about train, recover, and movement, and not in that order, whatever order.
I'm really glad that she's the one that
Fuck
came
that
up
up.
with the concept and got it wrong.
God, fuck it all up. Anyway, we do believe in this concept. I swear to God it works. But part of some of this is recovery days, and the lick mat, the mechanical action and the endorphins by licking, there is science behind that. And so lick mats are incredibly helpful. Now, people have said to me, but Jess, my Malinois will eat it in shreds. Well, you dummy, don't leave your dog unattended with said lick mat. Again, we are talking about engaging with your dog. Play with them. I would never give my Malinois a lick mat and be like, sayonara, sucker, here's your crate, good luck to you. Absolutely not. He would swallow it whole in one piece. I'm talking about using the lick mat. And again, there's a million options on the internet. You can freeze them. There are pet safe foods that you can smear on them, and all sorts of really crazy, cool ideas that are out there. And we can share some of those along the way. But the art of licking, and that the endorphins that they release doing that, is part of recovery, and it can be so stimulating to them. It's wonderful. And it's wonderful for our anxious friends, especially. We'll talk about this. I want to hit this too, the firework dogs. the art of licking and that self-soothing behavior that they do, this is something that they do on their own. This is a natural behavior that they do. So allowing them to do this in a controlled way is super helpful. And it's one of my go-tos. I love to give lick mats. My dogs are obsessed with them. And I watch them. Obviously, I'm not just putting them in crates and good luck. I'm engaging with them. Whether it's one-on-one or some of the dogs that I know are not going to destroy it can be in their crates and lick safely by themselves, while the others are hanging out with me. And I might be watching TV or hanging out with them on the floor, but they have their lick mats and we're actively doing something. And that can be so helpful. And I know you guys do Kongs.
Yeah, we do the frozen Kongs, which the dogs absolutely love. This firework thing, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm really curious, and because none of my dogs mind fireworks, they could care less. It's just like they'll stand out in the back deck, look up, like, huh, something just went bang. That's kind of cool. But how much of the dog's behavior and nervousness is driven by the owner's, nervousness? Oh my God, it's the 4th of July. It's going to be so loud.
Yeah.
And they kind of drive their dog into that same emotional feeling, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think honestly, for me, it's about 50-50. I do find that there are dogs that no matter what you do, they are just anxious, but not feeding that behavior is the biggest thing for us. Like, just let them go. If they want to go hide somewhere and tremble under the bed, just leave them alone. Like, stop feeding them that behavior. Stop coddling and stop, oh, baby, you're okay. Let me hold you. Let me cuddle. Like, just leave them alone. Like, if they want to go hide and tremble, go hide and tremble. If they're not being destructive to your belongings or themselves or you or other pets in the home, leave them alone. Leave them alone. Let them do what they feel is safe.
You're marking the behavior, right? When the dog is acting unsure, and you're marking that behavior, and the dog is now feeding off of your energy and realizing, oh, this is all bad. I had, again, as I mentioned earlier, I have like 10 dogs in my kennel right now, and the neighbor was shooting off fireworks. He has a little young girl, and everything was fine, and they were like normal fireworks. They weren't anything like going up in the air and exploding all over the place, but my dogs barked briefly. They went inside, all of them, all the dogs that I have that are not even mine. They went in, they settled. I went and checked on them. They were fine, right? They were able to understand the situation was not going to harm them. They processed it and they moved on. I didn't go in and say, oh my God, are you guys okay? Do you need something? Do you need a blanket? Like, no, they need to understand what the adversity is, whether it's just the sound or the lights or whatever, and they need to learn to deal with it. And they do a great job. Now, also, we provide through Rec Specs, we have what we call Ear Pro, and those are something that can assist in the dog's kind of becoming immune or not sensitive as much to the loud noise. And that does help. Like, we've had service dogs. Our service dogs people have taken their dogs to fireworks. They've taken to concerts, and they've done such things where they used this piece of equipment, and it was able to the dog to realize, like, oh, it's okay. And eventually, it immaculates them into the situation. They're fine. Like, same way with gunfire, right? With police dogs, I mean, obviously, we try to make the dog neutral to gunfire, but as long as, hunting dogs, things of those natures, it's important for the dogs to be neutral to that gunfire. And so, equipment and environmentals and that dog being exposed to it is what you need to happen, as opposed to not exposing the dog to the circumstances. Then they never know really how to process it, right?
Yeah. And I think that there's definitely dogs out there that are very fearful and they have a lot of anxiety surrounding all sorts of different noises. Just this week, I've had so many phone calls about needing medication to help their pets through this season. And that is valid. People are not wrong. There are definitely situations in dogs that they do need a little extra help. And so making sure you're talking to, your veterinarian if there is additional help. Obviously, there are things that we can do. We have CBD oil that we have, and that can be helpful as well. So those products are all good and safe. And again, there are dogs that need those things. That is valid. But on the same token, not feeding the behavior is is helpful. So yes, some of them are very fearful and they can get themselves spun up and they can get diarrhea and they can get vomiting and they can get these other things because they are so anxious. And so you want to try to help lower that for them so they're not so fight or flight. But if my dog wants to go under the bed and hide and tremble, that is okay. I don't need to pull them out and like make them sit on the couch with me because I'm upset that they're hiding. Like, if that is where the dog feels most safe and that's dampening the noise for them and that is helpful for the dog to do that, let them do that. There's no harm in that. Where we get ourselves into trouble is the dogs who will pace and they start pacing and panting and barking and they're just so spun up. Those dogs are a different subset of dogs, and those dogs, using the crate, I would say that using the crate, giving them a safe space where it's quiet, turn the TV on, turn the radio on. Like, there are other things that have to happen that are not feeding the behavior, that are just making sure that the pet is safe. And I would say, and you guys may or may not agree, and I'll probably get the hate mail, 90% of the problem, 90% of the people who have such a problem with noise phobias, and they say, my dog is so anxious over the fireworks, my dog is so anxious over the thunderstorms, like it's just this big, tremendous thing, they are not using the correct tools to solve the problem. They are not using a crate and or refuse to use a crate because their dog's never been in a crate and they don't like the crate and they have separation anxiety, and the list goes on of all the reasons why the dog can't do X, Y, and Z, because is usually the people who have the majority of the problem. The people who are using a crate, they are using various products or tools to help them, generally do okay. Like, the dog is anxious, yes, but they muster through it. They're okay. It's not a tremendous problem. And then obviously the big one, like, don't leave your pet outside when we know there's fireworks all season long. Good God Almighty.
Jess, you kind of hit on a great thing, and everybody that's listened to our podcast will be laughing because I'm getting on my soapbox about the
I know, and I'm just trying to, I want, this is my thing. I'm like, I'm not trying to get no hate mail, but yeah. Go on.
But
go on.
Here's the thing: is you have to train your dog, and instinctively, the dog, if they're nervous,
yeah.
They're a little skitty, something's out of the norm for them, they will go to their safe place, make the crate,
yes,
their safe place. And Rufflins, and we carry Rufflins, but I love the Rufflin Cates just for this reason: is they're well ventilated.
Yes.
You have the two doors. Mm-hmm. The dog can go in there. It's like walking into a wolf den, right?
Yeah.
They can bed themselves down, and if you have the fan, like our K-Space fans, it's white noise.
Yeah.
Turn the fan on for them, create some white noise. Mm-hmm. If they're nervous or their anxiety is going up, they'll go in their crate and just lay down.
Yeah.
Something want their safe space.
Something super helpful for me too, and people get all bent out of shape about this, is what's been helpful for me. My dogs really don't care about much. They just have been exposed to everything, so they just don't care. So it doesn't apply to me. But I have had dogs who stayed with me, and service dogs who stayed with me that are in Rufflins, and I will actually take their crates down to my lower level, to my basement where my kennel setup is. And it dampens a lot of the noise, and it's cool. It's dark. I turn the TV on for them, and they don't really care about much going on otherwise, right? And so I think people get a little bent because they're like, well, my dog crate is in my living room, it's in my bedroom, it's in the office, it's wherever, and it's on a main level where in these new build homes you can hear everything, and so trying to get them into a space that is quiet, taking them down to the basement, taking them somewhere like a closet. I know that sounds crazy, people think I'm crazy when I say that, but like putting the crate in a small space where you can dampen as much noise as possible is incredibly helpful. And people get bent because they're like, well, but then my dog won't be in the living room with us while we're watching TV and the fireworks are going off. And you're like, who cares? That's irrelevant to the situation.
That dog does not care about those fireworks.
Correct.
Yeah.
No. You laugh about the closet, right? I had a client call me that was getting ready to be evicted out of their apartment because their dog was so neurotic when they left for work in its cage that it would just bark all day and everybody's complaining. And I'm like, well, it's because you have your kennel right in the front room. So every Amazon delivery,
Yeah.
UPS,
Yeah.
mailman, dog walking by, pick your noise that this dog's hearing, right? I said, you have the spare bedroom.
Put
It's
it
a
there.
double door closet. You're not using it for anything. It's well ventilated. It's air conditioned. It's a tiny little Bernedoodle, like a little mini Bernedoodle, so it's not taking up much space. You put the kennel in the closet, got its own thing, silent. The dog didn't bark again. The dog just lays down, listens to the TV or radio, whatever she leaves on, and she doesn't get evicted. And it's just that simple. It's not, rocket science. It's one of these things where we just have to be willing to understand it. Sometimes dogs need to be dogs. They're not humans. We treat them like humans sometimes, but at the end of the day, they're still animals and they have basic needs.
Yeah, you mentioned the basic needs, and we talked about like two podcasts ago where we talked about Maslow hierarchy and dog needs, and it is so important for the dog owner to understand what those are. And we talked about it like in pretty extensively when we had our podcast, but as I go back and listen to what you guys have just talked about and what we talked about in the other podcast, I mean, I think a sobering understanding of those needs, and that the dog owner understands that what that dog requires is so important. And I've had a lot of, like Justin mentioned, a lot of clients are like, they don't want to put their dog in a crate. They feel like they're trapping him to whatever.
Yeah.
The dog wants that. That is safety and security for the dog. That's level 2. And that is very important to the dog. And it allows, sometimes the way I verbalize it to my clients is like, when you get upset with your husband, right? You want to take a bath, maybe have a glass of wine, and you just go like, Calgon, take me away, right? That crate is exactly that for the dog. It is allow them to get away from their humans, allow them to decompress, and allow them to be like, okay, I'm all right. And it's kind of control alt reset for the dogs, for her to understand, like, this is okay. I'm good. I can now process whatever adversity that's going on, whether it's weather related, whether it's fireworks, whether it's something else going on in the home. The dog is able now to like fully decompress and process what's next.
Yeah. And I would say, like, I think for me, I hold things. So my dogs don't always get lick mats. They don't always get Kong toys. They don't always get chewies and whatever. I use them to my advantage. And that's part of what we have talked about, these needs and these whatever. I use them to my advantage because when there are fireworks, or it is really hot, or it is really cold, or whatever the situation is, I use all of those. I use, shout out to Chubby, I use those things to my advantage. I don't just willy-nilly let them have what they want when they want it. I give those things to them. So Chubbies in my house are hella popular. Everybody loves them. And I will use them when I need them to be quiet. Let's say I have guests over and I need the dogs to be quiet. Guess what? Everybody gets a Chubby. Hey, there's fireworks going on. They get a Chubby. But guess what? My dogs don't know. They don't know that there's fireworks going on. They don't know that the maintenance man is coming to do whatever. Or Sam, your air conditioning, right? They don't know that I'm having a party and I want them to just chill. They don't know that I am leaving the house for an extended period of time. What they do know is when I get this, it's a reward for them. And they have learned that that is so special and so exciting that for me, it is a tool, and it's silly to say like, hey, the chew bone is a tool. But it is a tool, and the lick mat is a tool, and the Kong is a tool, and all these things that we're talking about are tools. And I don't just willy-nilly give my dogs these things because I need them to work for me. And I need them to understand that when you get these things, it is a big, high value thing. And so my dogs are in crates, and that's just the expectations. You're in your crate when I'm gone or I'm doing whatever. And so then when I add the element of, here is this really exciting, cool thing that you get to do in your crate while I'm gone, they could care less about the fireworks. They could care less about the thunderstorm. They don't care that my guests are over. It's because they're so engrossed in what it is that I have rewarded them with. They don't care. And we miss that because the average pet owner, you walk into a home and you're training, and guess what? How many toys are strewn across the floor? Buckets of buckets of toys, buckets and buckets and buckets of toys. And I think that not allowing to have those, like some toys, sure, they can have on a regular basis. It's just part of the game. But think about your tug toys. Think about your ball tugs, your bite sleeves, all of these things we give our working dogs. We give it to them. We provide that. We don't just like willy-nilly God, if we gave Nico a tug toy whenever he wanted it, that'd be a disaster, right? So why do we do that with our pet dogs when we talk about stuffies and chew bones and all these things? Like, why do we just let them have what they want when they have it? We don't let our kids do that. No, I don't have kids, so I don't care. But we all know my dad didn't just let me have what I wanted when I wanted it.
And your dad was a hard ass.
I know. He was so mean. He never let me have any toys.
Yeah, but you know what? It's amazing how tough
it's a secret.
You grow up when you fall down on the soccer field and you know you can't cry.
Right?
Get up.
Get up. You're fine. But,
there's nothing broken and there's no blood. Get up.
But as a pet owner, I think people don't always identify that their dog is capable of so much more. They see the cool videos of all these working dogs, and they don't really identify that their dog is still on the same playing level as those dogs, just in a different way. Everyone's dog is a badass. It's just in their own way and doing their own thing. And so by using their toys as a reward and using them as a tool, we can do so much more, and they're capable of so much more, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I got news for you. Anybody ever wanted to rob my house? Just bring a couple frozen Kongs with peanut butter in them.
Yes.
My dogs will go in their kennels, lay down, and you could carry out everything in the house over the next 2 hours, and they won't care.
And Tommy,
they would sell me
until you wake up.
For a Kong.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, Yara's the same way, Tommy. You have toys that she has that are like her yard toys that she wants to play with, and those are hers, and she can have them when she wants them. But you have toys that you don't let her have on a regular basis. I know this.
Right. So she has a toy box, and she knows that those are the toys that she can get out, and she spreads out throughout the yard. And my wife gets pissed because she's got to go out and pick them up before she mows the yard. But the thing of it is like what you touched on is that reward-based system. People just, it's kind of like how we raise our kids now. Like when, your kid is trying to just maybe learn something or do something, parents, and I've been a parent. I've raised 2 boys with the help of my wife, and so I know how it is nowadays that, and in law enforcement I see it as well. They just give them something. Here's your phone, go away. Here's your iPad, go away. Go watch TV, and then that's what they learn from, right? And there's no other enrichment. So the same thing comes in fruition with the dog, where the dog is like, if you give that dog his most valued reward, what else is he going to work for? Why would he want to be a part of you? Like, what are you going to do to engage that enrichment with him so that dog now is engaged with you and wants to be like, okay, what do you want me to do? Because you have what I want. If you give it to him all the time, everything means nothing. Yep. Nothing means nothing.
Yep. 100%. And it's a trust thing too. And to tie it all back together, because we have gone on our soapboxes, we got 3 of them going apparently, is that there's a lot of trust in that. There's a lot of trust from the dog that they're going to get the reward, and that anticipation, they know it's coming, and that can be a really powerful thing. And as a pet owner, to use that power in a very productive, healthy, positive manner will do amazing things for a relationship between you and your dog. And then in turn for that, when there are thunderstorms, when it's super hot, when it's super cold, when all of these things happen, that dog is an incredible dog and you're not facing a lot of challenges that many people face where they have an unruly dog. They're like, the dog's destroying the house. We've been in the house for 3 days and I'm going mad. A lot of people are facing that because that's not the structure that they have. And people are probably, there's a lot of buzzwords on social media, structure and clarity and connection and all these things. But it does come full circle that if your dog can trust you, that it's going to get the reward, it's going to get its needs met. You have a great relationship. Then when the thunderstorm happens, it's not a big deal. When the fireworks happen, not a big deal.
Absolutely. And I will tell you, if you have a dog and you're not meeting their needs, you know about it, because it's like I have a client that has a lab. It's a working line lab, not a show lab, but a working line lab.
Yeah.
And they couldn't figure out why it kept going into their daughter's bedroom and ripping her stuffed animals into thousands of little pieces. And it's like, well, first, where are you? Well, we went to dinner. Okay, why is it not in its kennel? But why is your daughter's toys laying everywhere and the doors open? And how do you expect a lab not to find something that's really soft and plushy?
Yeah.
That feels like a duck, feels like a goose, feels like a rabbit, and, not do what labs do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're spot on. You have to meet these dogs' needs. If you're not going to kennel them, you need to figure out some way of making sure when you're not there that they have a reward of some type or some kind of enrichment to keep them occupied.
Yep.
Because if not, they're going to find their own entertainment, and it's not going to be what you like.
100%.
You said the word enrichment, and those are there are 2 words that I tell my clients that are probably the most important with your dog during its training, and that is enrichment and engagement. If you're not getting those 2 things, if you're not getting the engagement from your dog, he is not getting the enrichment that it needs. If you don't have the 2 E's, you're not going to succeed.
Wow.
Yeah, I just did that. So, but
Is enrichment spelled with an E?
I think so. Today it is. So the thing is like, as long as the dog is succeeding and understanding, and that there is that engagement for that dog to, like, what's next, right? Because they're looking for the next thing to learn from you as the owner. That is what's important. And so many times the dog owner doesn't think about that. They honestly think about themselves. They're like, it's too hot. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I don't have time for this. I don't have time for that. And we get, when I do lessons, and I know you guys have done it too, where they come to you and they're like, okay, this is lesson number 5. What have we done from lesson number 4? And they're like, well, life was busy. We didn't get this done. We didn't get that done. And you're okay. Well, we're going to reinforce what we did in lesson 5, even though we're on lesson 6. And I tell them, I'm like, you're going to keep paying me every week and I'll take your money. I'm okay with that. But you're not getting any further with your dog. You have to do the homework. You have to do the work at home. And, and I always tell them, like, if, I tell them up front when they come to me with lessons and they talk about between a lesson-based training or immersion program, I'm like, you want an immersion program? We can do that. That takes you out of the picture. It's more costly. If you want to do lesson-based, which is cheaper for you, it involves you. It requires your involvement. It is a necessity. And if you do not grow with your dog's not simply going to grow. And, at some point I tell them, like, I don't try to be mean about it, but I'm like, you're paying me X dollars a week, month, whatever it is, and we're still back to the same problem. And I understand, and then we revisit, like, okay, do you really want a lesson-based program to get your dog where he needs to be? Or do we need to look at, like, an immersion program where it could be better for the dog in the long run for you?
100%.
Yeah, you definitely have to have that engagement. We are right there at that mark. Jessica, you want to wrap us up?
Yes. So we went on a tangent. We had no plan. This is what happens when we look at my notebook. I wrote nothing down today. I gave them no plan. We rolled the tapes, and this is what you got. So if you hated it, I don't care. Stop watching. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know.
And if you're from Liquid Death, we do like it. Send us a couple cases. We'll keep giving you a shout out. And if you have director chairs, we're more than happy to put our names on them.
We'll put your name on them. Whoever's got director's chairs. It doesn't have to be my name. It can be whoever's name. I just want a director's chair.
But like, who's Bill? Bill bought the chairs, but it's okay.
It's okay. No worries.
I will give a shout out to Automated Dogs. Automated Dogs.
Yes.
Like we've sponsored.
Leanne. Automation
Leanne
Dogs.
has been a godsend to us with Automation Dogs. It has been so incredibly important for our business. I know when we talked about it, I was kind of on the fence because of cost and whatnot. But I'll say this: Automation Dogs is well worth the investment. It organizes your clients. It helps promote your business, and in honesty, it keeps everything in check for you as the business owner. So for Automation Dogs, I give them a huge shout out. I think it's awesome. Keep up the good work, and we will continue to plug you in our podcast. Yeah.
I would say thank you, Automation Dogs. They are they're who is powering our conference this year, and I'm super excited about them. Leanne and her team so if you're listening, other trainers, dog people who are going to try to come to our conference, Leanne and her team are helping us with the webinar portion of things. That's what they do. And they're incredible. And their customer service is good. First of all, that was like the only thing that I cared about. I was like, can you help me? And then second of all, like being able to have a partnership with other dog trainers and people who have been around this business long enough to know, like, they're not just another software company that's like, here, use our shit. And they don't really know the ins and outs and dynamics of what training looks like. It's been super incredible to work with a team that has so much experience in this industry and then pulls in experience from other people in this industry is refreshing and is what we need to move forward. And that's incredibly important. And shameless plug for the conference, please sign up. It's going to be so fun. We announced our keynote speaker a while ago, but we plugged him out. So Eric Stambro is our keynote speaker this year, and we couldn't be more excited. He's talking about his e-collar without conflict course, which is super popular. He's been teaching it all over the place. I want to say nation, but I don't know, all over the world. He's teaching it all over the world. I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, he's incredible.
He's teaching it.
He's teaching it all over the world. That's all that matters. And then we've got some incredible speakers that have decided to come back with us for a second year. And that always makes me feel good because we have tried to build genuine relationships with each and every one of these people and their businesses. A lot of these people are running their own businesses. They have so much experience. And it's been a whirlwind. Sometimes I can't believe we're living this life that we're doing this, but it's been cool.
Yeah, the conference this year is going to be a great time. Shout out to Eric. If you want to know more about Eric, go to Working Dog Radio. He's always one of his podcasts.
Yep.
Incredible trainer, fun to listen to, great stories. And then, there's going to be some stuff other than just dog trainers at the conference. We got some business professionals coming in, investment specialists. If you're wanting to build your dog training business and, you're thinking about retirement or how am I going to retire? We'll have somebody there that's going to be able to walk you through that and, and how that'll look. So
that's exciting.
It's going to be a great time. We look forward to seeing everybody.
Well, you two are like already retired, right? Or something? You're old.
No.
I'm old.
Listen, I'm now doing things that I didn't think I'd be doing 15 years ago. So I'm getting back into something that I can't disclose right now. But just to touch on the conference, I'm going to say that, when Sam and Jess brought this to me, 2 years ago, I was like, this sounds like a lot of expense and a lot of headaches. But after the first one, it's been so successful, and Sam and Jess have done such a great job wanting to put this together. And I think as a new dog trainer, you need to at least look at this and see the new world of dog training and see how a lot of trainers didn't have this in the beginning. They didn't understand the finance end of it. They didn't understand the marketing end of it. Like Adam does a really good presentation of marketing. I think that will be a key awesome class that's going to be done at the conference. And then, you know, we have other people. You have women coming in that are new to, you know, dog training, that have built dog training, and it's going to be a really good time for that.
My ladies' lunch is gonna
Lady lunch, yeah.
Ladies' lunch.
And then-
I'm like kind of a rah women's power kind of gal, but then also like low key not. But I'm so excited because we get to do our own thing, and Sam's really good friend is coming, and I love to say this out loud. She is from the Space Force.
Space Force.
She's from the Space Force, and she's a fucking badass, and I cannot wait. I'm so excited.
So I think in closing, like, I really hope that people will go to the conference page, really look at it, consider it, and take the plunge, because I think you'll walk away with a wealth of knowledge and a lot of people who have tons of experience willing to sit down. Like, that was the biggest thing last year as we got our feedback, is they wanted more networking with us as trainers, other trainers. They wanted to be able to sit down, pick our brains, and I think we're gonna give that to them this year. So I'm hoping people will take advantage of that.
100%.
Yeah, and absolutely. And you know, the best thing about this conference is every speaker that's there is willing to give you the recipe to the secret sauce.
Yep.
No one's hiding anything. There's no judgment. There's no, I only do this, or I have a secret and I'm not going to tell you. Everybody's there for one purpose, to make the industry better.
Yeah.
So, hey, great talking to you guys as always.
Till next
Have a good
time.
4th of July.
All right.